Greetings fanboys and fangirls, Jared here with another video review from Fanboys Forever. Today we're going to be having a look at another Mezco 112 collective product. This time it is their Pink Skull Chaos Club box set that they have out. This is the new version for 2022. This was a very unexpected release. So what is the Pink Skull's Chaos Club? Well, first of all, this is actually the second release for these three particular characters. As anybody who's familiar with the company knows, it seems like Mezco has a real penchant for continually releasing characters that have skulls for heads. For whatever reason, it just seems to be their thing. And who can blame them, because they sell well and people tend to really, well, eat it up. So it's a win-win for everybody. One of the interesting things, though, is this particular group of characters that they introduced a couple years ago, the Pink Skull Chaos Club. Originally introduced with just like a little stop motion short, like a lot of their new Rumble Society releases. They were kind of like this British punk rock trio that shows up from another dimension and just kind of wreaks havoc. Since their introduction, I think that Mezco's decided to kind of take that punk rock thing to the next level, and we're going to get into all that because this set is really, really wild. So first, just let me be clear that these guys, which are their 5 points figures over here, aren't in this set. They're just something that I thought would make the setup look cool at the beginning. Also, you don't get these two boom boxes. But what you do get, you see before you. You can see that we have the big box set of the three figures. We also have the Pink Skull's Chaos Club LP. There's 2 vinyls in there. And a lyrics sheet, actually, that comes with it so that you can sing along, because believe it or not, yes, this is an actual album with 8 songs on it. And before we get started today, please make sure that if you've not already subscribed to the channel, that you go ahead and do so. It really does help us out, and a like really does help the algorithm kind of spread this video around, so we really do appreciate it. And before we get the figures out, it is worth noting that if it's not already obvious, just like most Mezco releases, these aren't for younger fanboys and fangirls. These are definitely your adult kind of collector figures because, of course, they're trying to be as edgy as all get out with these guys. With that said, let's begin. So before we look at the actual figures, we'll go ahead and look at some of the other items that you get. Like I said, you do get this really cool little 2-disc LP right here for their debut album, and it has some really cool kind of quirky art right here on the front. Really nice. On the back, you get some more artwork and a listing of the songs. And right here, you can see that we have a funny interior with just the names of the songs sprawled on the wall there. It does come with 2 LPs, and you get them out of these little paper sleeves. And the actual LP itself is just so cool looking. They did this effect where there's all this paint in here, and I'm not a collector of like records or anything like that, but I know it's a big industry. If you're anything like me and you're not cool enough to own a record player, you do get this download card, and they just give you a code that you have to use and go to that site to redeem it. It works on your phone and all of that too, so it was pretty cool. I listened to all the songs and they were actually pretty good. I think one of my favorites is the Double Jointed Elbows song. It's like the Pink Skulls are bragging about how they have double jointed elbows, because that was such a thing for so long with the Mezco fan community. Another big favorite for me is Secondary Market Suckas, which is like a diss track by Mez that's all about these guys. They're on every single Mezco post. That's always says something like easy pass, and then you see those same guys like trying to find a deal on the secondary market because oops, turned out they wanted it. Some of it is like a parody of punk rock, and some of it is pretty legitimate. Some of it is actually some really good stuff. We got all 3 of the boys here looking pretty cool. I love their new outfits for this particular box set. They've kind of dropped some of that French look to them almost and went more full-on punk rock, which I think suits these characters a little more, but they have so many options, and we'll get into that later, that you can kind of make them look however you want. Just real quick, I didn't do this about the Mezco exclusive sticker being ripped. It just came like that because it looks kind of rough, but who knows, maybe it's supposed to be real punk looking, yeah. On the sides, we have some cool artwork. On the back, not much to speak of. Here you go, yep, you can go up to your local Target employee and take them this barcode. You're only going to find this on Mezco. Same art on the other side. But the real fun is on the tops and the bottoms of the boxes. Check this out. On the bottom, you can see like a party scene with some really special guests, including the Frankenstein's monster. And right here, we have Alfred Hitchcock. But by far my favorite, and no, your eyes do not deceive you, that is Steve Urkel. I can only hope that he's doing the Urkel.
It's time to do the Urkel.
And if you don't know what that is, look it up. You won't regret it.
Want to do the Steve Urkel dance? All you have to do is hitch up your pants.
Or maybe you will. Come on, Mezco. 112 Collective Steve Urkel. I'm here. I'm ready to buy. Come on.
Bend your knees and stick out your pelvis. I'm telling you, baby, it's better than Elvis.
So we have our floor down here, and we have a stage up here. I think you can already see what we're getting at. This box is going to convert into a stage for them all to play in. So I'm very excited about getting to that part. The first thing we have is the figures themselves with some accessories, all three. And then for this tray, we have a plethora of alternative accessories and hands and instruments. So many cool things, everything from cymbals to machine guns, bottles to chains, you name it, it's here. On the bottom of the box, we do have the Pink Skulls Chaos Club logo. And finally, on the bottom layer, we have 3 display stands. We have a bunch of different decals and stickers, drum sets. Then we have all the accessory bags, the stands, and even a milk crate. So, all right, I'll go ahead and get these guys out and I'll be back. And here they are at their big show. Well, that's right, it's the Pink Skull Chaos Club. And as you can see, some of my figures down there, and usually, you know, they're very well behaved, but not quite this time. This basically is a one-stop shop for kind of creating this rowdy, insane diorama. For your action figures, you've got the stage that folds out from the box, and you can see it completely unfolded here and how that looks. You can see the supports there on each end of it that kind of keep it up. You also have to put in the trays from the figures if you want there to actually be solid ground for them to stand on, because if you don't, it's just going to be hollow, and I would say that the stock, the paper stock that it's on, will just kind of fold inward. As demonstrated here, you can see that that backdrop for the stage really does go really high up, and there's even a catwalk and kind of stage lights up there. So it really is great for photography because it gives you a really tall area to play with your shots. What's not got as great coverage is the sides. It kind of limits what you can do with your photos. So for me, I'm just using my photo booth with the black and just kind of extending it out that way. And especially once you have some of the lights off for more dramatic lighting, it just kind of blends in, so it's really great for photography. But overall, after seeing it all assembled like this and most of the elements from the set being put into place, it's just a really, really satisfying kind of all-in-one package. One of the funny things about the Pink Skulls is they're not as individually characterized as a whole lot of Mezco characters that we've seen in the past. What I mean by that is that they're only referred to as 1, 2, and 3. They don't even have individual names. So basically you can just mix and match heads, outfits, gear, whatever, and just kind of come up with your own look for these guys. There's really no rules for who should have what, who should be playing what instrument. If there is, I've not been made aware of it, of exactly who's supposed to be characterized doing what. But for me, it's more fun just to look at all the different possibilities. Taken as a whole, the whole stage setup, and especially when you take some of the bottles and the cans and some of the trash and things and just set it on there on top of what's printed, like the dirty rug and the body outline, it really does give kind of a 3D effect to your diorama piece, and that's fantastic. And we've not even begun to scratch the surface of everything this set has to offer. So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, we're going to start with our front man here. We of course want to look at all of our sculpting here. Of course, all 3 bodies are exactly the same, but the main differences we're going to be looking at are head sculpts. I really was drawn to this particular head, and I'll remove his hat so that you can see it. It just had more of that devious look to it. I think I really liked the kind of brow placement, as if a skull could articulate like the brow portion, but still, I think you know what I mean. You can also see that all of these guys actually have hinged jaws, and you can see that you can open it up a variety of ways there. Something else interesting about this particular one is his outfit. He is the only one, I think anyway, with an actual printed shirt. And on the box, on the art, they've shown him in kind of the middle because of his lightning bolt on his chest, I guess. And to me, that kind of denoted like a front man. So I definitely had him up in the front just from my own preference. You can zip the jacket up all the way, and I'm going to go ahead and show it now because you can do this on all of the others. And you can get way up there if you want to and barely leave any of the shirt showing. Or you can actually zip it pretty well all the way up. And as always, be very careful with 1/12 scale zippers. And you definitely want to grab onto all of the zipper and not just the little tab there because it could break like I just did, but it didn't break on me. And you can zip up the jacket completely if you want to give them a more uniform look. You can see that his instrument that I have him with is this incredible guitar shaped in like the rock and roll horns, whatever you want to call them, that people do with their hands. And that is an incredible sculpt. I thought that was just so amazing when I saw it. Even on the back, we have all of this really intricate sculpting. We have a little message here. Just really funny stuff. And I'm very impressed by what they were able to do. And even things like where you can see this has been torn off, and just little things. These look like strings you could individually strum, but you can't. I think it's just sculpted onto there, and it's just very impressive. So I thought this guitar is probably my favorite, but it's definitely one of the greatest guitars I've seen in this scale. All three of them have different sorts of shoes. This one has the boots. These are fully articulated and they're laced up, and they just have a normal appearance, just like regular combat army boots, whatever you want to call them. So I think these are the most traditional. They're also really glossy, which I like. You can see he's got the traditional Pink Skull Chaos Club logo that we've seen forever and ever. And I'll go ahead and show you now, but he comes with a display stand like all of them do, and it's the exact same for all of them. But yeah, I was really impressed with this particular one. I really do like the head sculpt on this one. It has a lot of attitude, and this one was really fun to just put right there in the front. Keep in mind that all three of them do come with this hat right here, which is very similar to what we saw in the original set. Kind of that Brando kind of look right there from early in his career, and it looks fantastic just like it always did. I think because there's so much headgear that you can switch out in this particular set that I'm going to try to at least show you 2 or 3 different pieces with each figure as we go through. One of them, and I'll have to borrow it from Cousin Eddie back here, is this crown piece, and I think it looks spectacular on him. And what I'd put on him earlier was kind of the old school sort of football or rugby helmet or whatever you want to say that was leather, and at least that's what I think it is. And I went ahead and put these goggles over it too. If you're curious, yes, you can bring the goggles down even over the helmet like this. If you don't have a helmet on, these kinds of goggles, which they come with a couple of different pairs, it's one of them that actually has some duplicates in this set. You can actually just bring it down, and even without any kind of helmet or anything, and without a nose, they still manage to stay on there pretty well. And that looks really great too. I actually hadn't put it on there alone like that before, and I actually like that. It's a pretty outrageous look. As you can see, you can load the clip in just like that, and you can remove it. It stays in there pretty snugly. I did expect there to be several more handguns in the set, but I think they decided to go with more quirky weapons. And just for good measure, I will show you the adjustable microphone stand and mic that he does include. This is a really cool little accessory, particularly because everything is so adjustable about the microphone. It swivels up here, it pivots, and then these pipes, anytime you see a little break right here, you can actually disassemble it, and all of this is a modular system to where you can adjust these pipes to be at the level that you need it to be for him to reach it, or for it to look a little more convincing as he sings with it. So I think that's a really cool touch. One really interesting element of this mic stand is the base for it, which I think is, it's one of those things you see it and there's more effort put into it than was even necessary. They could have just included kind of a small standard black base. Probably no one would have noticed, but I think this is really cool, and I love the design on it and the paintwork. And they even went as far as to do all of this on the back, and it has such a cool feel to it. I know that it's plastic, but it feels a little more metal-like to me, so it looks great, and it's something that I will have in the background of my Mezco display. And here we have another member of the band, and you can see that in his bowler hat and his sunglasses and a padlock necklace, this guy is ready to roll. This is probably the most interesting in terms of sculpting out of the 3 main heads that we get. Since the eyes are the most narrowed, this definitely, I think, gives you the most personality, almost looking like kind of a Clint Eastwood sort of type. It's the most intense, I think, of the head sculpts. So I really like this one. Maybe it loses a little bit of the skull look for me, and I think that's why I didn't have it like out at the lead front, because it almost looks like more like an alien of some sort, because there's so much flesh, I guess you could say, on the face, and so it kind of loses more of that skeletal look. And I still really like it. It's got a great kind of vibe to it. But at the same time, I'm probably a bigger fan of the other two more traditional heads. I still really like it though. You can see that here I have one of the necklace options, which is just on a chain, and it's just a padlock with a little logo right there. His outfit is a little different than what we've seen. Unlike the denim pants of the other two, this guy is actually rocking a full-on leather, or pleather in this case, outfit. And you can see that these are completely pleather pants. This one probably makes me the most nervous in terms of long-term shelf life. Definitely keep those dehumidifiers running, kids, and hopefully he'll stay in good shape. But actually it doesn't really affect his articulation all that much. Yeah, he doesn't get quite as good a range as the other guys in the denim pants, but it doesn't make so much of a difference. This is probably the easiest to rip or tear, Doom reference there, but it's still, I think, sturdy enough. The other thing that's interesting is that under this jacket, he is wearing a hoodie. As you can see here, it's super easy just to take the jacket right off. And you can do that with any of those guys. You can have the jacket open, just whatever. And there's enough articulation to where you can bend the arms back to get that off well enough. And you can remove the hands to make it a little easier. Because it's a hoodie, you do have this actual wired hood right here. And you can use that wire to kind of contour it a little bit. You can kind of simulate a little bit more gravity. And yeah, I think he looks really, really great like this. A little more devious, I think. This would be a great time to just go over articulation real quick. I know that we've seen this body before, so I'm not going to take a really long time to do it. You can bring the head up and down plenty. You can bring it all the way around, of course. You can also see that the hinges on the shoulders allow you to do some crazy stuff, and you can bring it all the way around. Just remember that when you're working with soft goods, you want to twist those sleeves. Anytime you have the leather jackets on, he won't be this mobile, but he's still fairly mobile with the jacket on. You can even see that you do have double jointed elbows because there's an entire song about it on the record. If you don't believe me, listen to it. It's insane. You can see that you got hinges at the hands right here. You can rotate the hand all the way around. There is a bicep swivel right in there. There's a really good pivot and hinge in there inside of the abdomen. And there's one up here, and there's one, I think, down here as well. So you can get some really crazy back and really crazy forward motions. And there's even a swivel right here at the waist. I don't think it goes all the way around though. You can see that with the leather pants, it does inhibit you a little bit more. This is probably as comfortable as you can go in terms of width, which is great as long as you don't want them to do the splits. Also, when it comes to kicks, he's probably a little more inhibited than the guys in the faux denim pants, but it's still, you can almost get pretty much a 90-degree bend right there. You do have a thigh swivel right up there that works pretty well. You do have a double jointed knee, but I don't want to go too crazy with those because you can tear stitching and things when you have the double jointed extended way more than the soft goods is ready to handle, so just be aware of that. Down here you've got a rotation and you have plenty of pivot. So when it comes to those wide stances, even without me plugging him into the base or anything like that, you can see that he's able to maintain it really well. There's not really much of a problem at all. Speaking of the feet, now that we're down here, this brings us to one of the only big changes visually in terms of shoes, and that's that he's wearing these Vans down here. And you can see that they're the Mezco branded kind of things with the M's on them. And I think we've seen these before, but these are a new colorway for them. And just as an aside, I would say it would be pretty simple for you to actually heat up any of those shoes and switch them out amongst the three. I'm not going to do that because I don't see any point in doing that, but it is something that you could probably do. Here's something else of note is his incredible looking electric guitar or bass guitar. I'm not really sure. You can see there's a little bit of damage up there going down to this incredible skull motif that's painted on there with the lightning bolt, that you even have a little bit more detail, a little bit of wood grain sculpted in. I think with a little bit of washing this would look even better up here, so that might be a little unfortunate that they didn't get to it. And just like the other one, it has this faux leather strap that works really well, and it is very, very easy to arm the figure with his axe. So he looks awesome with his instrument. Another one of the headgear options that I'll show you for this guy or any of the other three, like I said, all of these accessories I'm showing you are completely interchangeable with any of them and don't belong to any one in particular. It's another one of those kinds of old-fashioned sports kind of helmets, but in a way this one looks more like the old flight helmets that a pilot would use, like World War I era or Amelia Earhart, something like that. And I really love the little subtle details in it and the wear and the kind of leather look. So another accessory that you get is this thing called a beamer.
Cricket. Cricket?
It looks like a racket. You can see some blood stains on there. All the little details you expect from Mezco.
Nobody understands cricket. You gotta know what a crumpet is to understand cricket.
You can definitely use this to whack someone.
I'll teach you.
And just so you can see it, here he is about to knock some poor unfortunate soul's block off. So there you go. Another weapon he includes is this cool old-fashioned looking cartoony bomb. It kind of reminds me of the one that Batman ran around with in the 1960s movie.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Which makes me wonder if they won't eventually repurpose this for a figure done in the 112 collective line of Adam West Batman. You can see that he does come with this cool fuse that is lit, but you can remove that and easily sub in this one, the unlit fuse. But come on, I think the more fun one is to have it lit and just setting around in your photography just ready to blow. And it looks really good in terms of scale with the figures. Mezco included 3 pairs of these same sunglasses. I think the main concern, which is a reasonable one, is okay, these characters don't have noses, so how's this going to work? But there's good enough indentions in the sides of the heads for the sides of the glasses to kind of catch on something. So I think it looks pretty cool. For the jackets, we have 3 identical sets of decals, and these are all things you can just apply to the jackets and just kind of make them look a little more punk. You could probably put it on the instruments too. Being the kind of collector I am, I'm probably never going to get them out of the baggie, and I'm probably just not going to put an adhesive on any of the stuff. We're going to let this guy be the one to show you the wide range of adult beverages that are included here with this particular set. The battery acid, and yeah, it looks appropriately vile, and there you go. Don't drink, kids. Bad idea. Everyone's favorite brand, 40 Dog? I don't know. But there it is. And particularly impressive is how they have the yellowish kind of transparency, and then the top, it doesn't have it. So it's like a half full Wild Kitty right here, of course. And you actually get like 6 of these cans. We're going to say it's root beer. Yeah. Here's the fun thing with these though. They come with these attachments. So you can see here, it's like it's been shook up and it's exploding out. And there's a tiny little point that attaches into the top at the spout of the can right here. So you just plug that in and look, all of a sudden it's bursting forth with amber goodness. But they didn't stop there. Along with multiples of that bursting effect we just looked at, they've included multiples of the foaming over effect that you plug in similarly. This is, I think, even better than the last one because it looks a little more authentic. The other one maybe looks a little violent for a can being shook up and then kind of spewing out. So I think this looks pretty neat. And of course, every punker out there is going to need this, a broken bottle. You can see the little edges that have been sculpted onto there. Really fun accessory. It's kind of small. Wish it had a little more personality, maybe like half of a label torn off or something. And rather than me going through all of them, just here they are real quick. There's like 36 different alternative hands that you can switch out on these guys, like 3 trays of 12 or something. It's truly insane, and I think you'd be able to find any style of hand that you needed. Along with the display stands, they come with these flight cradles. I guess if you're going to have them like diving off stage or something, sure, why not? Usually I don't use these things unless it's a flying character. And the last accessory I'll cover with this guy is this jacket. Even with the hoodie kind of awkwardly sort of being in the way of the collar, I think it does look really good. I don't actually own the Pink Skulls Chaos Club 3-pack, the original, so I don't know if this is like the same exact jacket or not. It certainly seems kind of similar in that style. The big unfortunate thing with this is it only includes 1 of them, and I really would have loved it if they had included 3 of these so that you could have converted all 3 into having a matching style of jacket like this. Of course, it doesn't have the Pink Skulls Chaos Club logo on the back, so that I think that kind of lessens the blow because it's just a standard black 12 scale jacket. But it still looks nice, and I think it particularly looks good if you combine the bowler hat with it. And then I think you've got a pretty good look going. Yeah, let's get our last one. We're going to call him Larry over here. All right, that's Larry from here on. And of course, when you have a diorama that looks this cool, I had to start him out like this because it's just so amazing looking to see the big drum set and everything, and to see all the cool sculpting and even things as innocuous as like the big milk crate that he's setting on. It just ends up being a really spectacular look. So let's go ahead and take a look at the drum set actually first, because I'm just so astounded by this and all those little details they've managed to pack in. Look at all the wear and all the destruction where they've like had to duct tape at the front of the drum, and it looks like there's some bullet holes in there too. So that all looks just fantastic. You can see over here with the cymbal, this is actually a separate piece that you plug in, and the cymbal is appropriately wobbly so that if you were doing like a video and he hits it with a drumstick, it actually does the little thing that you see a cymbal do. There's big wrenches down here that kind of connect and create a display stand, and you could use those as weapons, I'm sure, if you wanted to for the figures. On the back, more of that damage, and the snare drum up here is really cool. You can see they've tried to fix it with some pink duct tape, and it's all adjustable, and I'm just so impressed by this. This is definitely one of the coolest aspects of the set and has my vote for the best accessory. One of the coolest things is that he actually has the foot pedal, and if you've ever seen somebody use, an actual drum set, they have that foot pedal that they can hit, and then it kind of hits the drum in the front. Of course, it's not going to produce much of a sound, it's more like a tap, but still, I think this is so cool that they even went to the trouble of sculpting this, tooling it out, and making it functional, just the engineering. Another little neat aspect is that they made it an 8-ball from like a pool set, so that's so cool. I'm just so impressed with how much went into this. And of course, Larry here is sitting on a big red milk crate. I kind of had a stupid moment when I was first looking at the set, and I just thought this was just something you could put in the background and maybe just put some loose accessories in, and the cool part is you totally could do that. You want to clean up after the show? Go ahead and put all the old bottles and the cans in there, headgear you're not using, maybe even a lip balm from Acme there. It's a cool little thing for storage too when you're not using it as a seat. Putting the drums in the background for a second, we'll focus on Larry himself. And you can see he's got his drumsticks out, and these are really cool. There's no kind of paint detail or anything, but they're so small. I mean, what could you do? Don't grip maybe quite tight enough to have these very securely, but instead you kind of end up wanting to just pinch these through the thumb where the thumb meets the fingers to get a little more of a grip, and you can see how easily it just kind of falls out. So that's something that maybe I'm not using the right hands or something like that, but it just seems like it needed a little bit more of a grip. I really, in particular, like the head sculpt here that they used. It's definitely the most lighthearted. You kind of have 3 modes. You've got kind of eyes wide right here, and then our front man had his eyes a little narrowed, and of course the last one we looked at, the eyes are like completely squinted. So it's like 3 expressions. You can totally just change the heads out. I'm just going with the ones that they were packed with, and you can do all sorts of different expressions with these guys. Just like the other 2, he does have a movable jaw. It doesn't get a huge amount of movement, but it's enough to do what you need it to, I think. And he does come with this cool hat, which is different than what we've seen, and I think is unique for him. And I do like that they added the gold paint hit for the buttons on the sides there. And you can, of course, put it right on his head and have more of that punk look, and it looks really, really neat. He does have a big like gold medallion piece, and you can put this on any of the guys, but it just has like the skull from their logo. Down here, he is wearing denim pants like the front man that we looked at first. And so that means that, yeah, you get a little bit more motion, and the legs have a little bit more articulation to them. You can see the difference between these and the leather pants we looked at a minute ago. I mean, you can get full-on splits with these. There's nothing inhibited here. What is funny is their choice down here, and that was to give him these unlaced motorcycle boots to where the, I guess you'd call it the tongue of the boots here is kind of just flopped down. And with that, they've lost all the articulation down here. Like there's no separation. This is all just one piece, kind of like what you'd see on a lot of 12-inch scaled figures. But they go ahead and they put a ball joint on there that can rotate it to where he can still hold a lot of poses. Just giving you an example, even if you have the legs out wide, there's enough rotation on those boots to where you can still get them flat-footed. So color me impressed that they were able to make that work, because when I first saw that there wasn't any kind of pivot or hinge or anything like that, I was a little freaked out. But once you have the figure out and you realize that it's okay, I really have to commend Mezco's design team on that, because that could have been disastrous. There's not a whole lot of accessories left to cover, but we are going to cover the remaining ones with this guy. One of them is this spectacular mask. You can see that it looks like a certain movie maniac. And if you look at that, oh, it's Nosferatu. Oh no!
Nosferatu!
I think more so than Jason from Friday the 13th, this reminds me of the old Splatterhouse video game, which is one of my old favorites. Had a very underrated remake as well. And here he is all masked up. Now it looks really big, but I think in fairness that has a lot to do with just how gigantic their noggins are before you put anything on. It still looks really cool, and just as I demonstrated with Nosferatu, you can put it on a whole lot of different Mezco figures. Just be aware that the elastic strap is really tight. From the back, you can still see that it exposes a little bit of the pink skull, and that's just such a great contrast that it has there. Paired up with the old Beamer here, and it's really quite a psychotic look, actually. So it's, yeah, it's kind of scary. I dig it. It's kind of a horror vibe. Look at that, just chomping down. He comes with like 6 of those, but if that's not enough for you, he comes with one that has fresh smoke emanating from it. So is there anything left that we have not covered? It seems like that we just keep going over more and more and more stuff. Surely there's not anything else, right? Well, wrong. As a special bonus, after months of people pleading and pleading with Mezco that, hey, we need another way to own the Pink Skull Chaos Club, there's been so many new fans that's kind of joined that Rumble Society line since then. I was really hoping that with this new set that they would make a way to do something like that, and they sort of did. You can see that we have the original Pink Skull's heads right here. We have the original striped shirts right here. And we have their original scarves and the 3 original tats. But these are going to be done just kind of with the leather jackets to sort of reproduce that original look. And I think that's going to be plenty close enough for me. So I'm going to show you how you can easily convert these guys. Just want to kind of work that off. And it's actually really easy. Now when you've got them down to this, you're going to have to do the same operation only with the shirt here. There we go. It takes a little bit, but once you have a grip on the sleeves, it can kind of work its way out. This is also a really good time to just look at the sculpting on the chest and everything and the way everything works. It's a really, really solid sculpt. I think it works really well, and it's kind of, you know, wiry but muscular, which I think works for these guys. And of course now the skulls actually have necks, so that's a cool thing. All right, and what you want to do is just put the arms up like so, and then attempt to guide them through. Now what you don't want to do is poke through so hard that eventually those wrist pegs poke right through the shirt. You don't want to do that. So just be careful that you're not accidentally puncturing some holes. And yeah, that was actually a lot easier to work with than the black shirt that we just removed. Got a Jailhouse Rock look going. And I'm just going to put on the leather jacket. Now from here you have some options about how you want to present your skull. You could just use the new heads, and then from there put on the old hat, and you have the more kind of updated, modernized version of their original look from that first box set. Because now you're using the more expressive kind of cartoony head that is definitely more in line with the artwork for the Pink Skulls. So I actually like that. That may actually be what I do with at least one of my members when I have them up there. And from here you have 6 different head options if you want to recreate the original figure as closely as possible. You can do either of these 3 heads right here. You have the kind of scared, the inquisitive, and the angry. And all 3 of these have posable jaws. So that's really cool options, probably what I would go with. If you really want to go super old school, you can do these standard expressionless faces that don't have posable jaws. So it's up to you. I like going for a little bit of personality. So I'll definitely do the cockeyed one. And lest we forget, we do get 3 scarves. And look at that, you're left with an absolute stunner of a piece. And I just love that original look so much. And especially with these new leather jackets, I didn't really know how that would look once you got it all together. But seeing it like this, it really gives me a lot more confidence in that particular choice by Mezco. If you want to put the scarf down, you can, which probably looks a little bit better because, you know, you want to see that wild kind of pink skull look. It'll be hard for me not to go with their original look because it's become such an established way that they look at this point that it's hard just not to go in that direction. Of course, these went up for order on mezcotoys.com about a month ago. It took a little while for them to ship, even though they were in stock items. They're not exactly pre-orders. So they were just kind of a phantom drop just all of a sudden. It was just go time. And I think these guys were right around $300. Now, I will say that is a lot of money for 3 6-inch scaled figures. I mean, it just is. I think like most Americans right now, I had to make a way to get them, you know, because that was not in my budget. So, you know, if you're not Mr. Moneybags or something, it is really hard to just suddenly brace for one of those drops. But with Mezco, you know, every month or two, they're going to do something. But I have to say, Mezco is continuing to do things that no other action figure company is even sort of doing. Whether it's their frankly insane levels of content that they put both literally and figuratively in their action figure sets, it's the crazy things they're doing with these giant boxes that open to become practical play sets, the insane number of accessories, the crazy number of outfit choices and just options that you've got. There's really nothing else to compare it to in the industry. All of that just being wrapped up in the kind of trailblazing nature of doing these brand new characters and creating their own shared universe for all of these guys and putting in just enough story to make them intriguing and fun without beating you over the head with mythology and lore. And I think that's what Mezco is best at, is giving you cool characters that you can kind of fill in the background for yourself. And I think there's no bigger example of that in their repertoire or their catalog than the Pink Skulls Chaos Club, where you get kind of an outline of what they are, and then you sort of just come up with the rest. And if it's crazy, if it's ridiculous, it works. It's kosher for these guys. Frankly, building an insane display like this, using what they gave me and some of my figures just around, has been some of the most fun that I've had when it comes to setting up a display or diorama in forever. And I think as collectors get older, that becomes a lot of the hobby, is just doing photography and having fun in those kinds of ways with the figures. And this was just an absolute blast. The Pink Skulls Chaos Club sold out, of course, pretty quick. There was a decent window of time. It wasn't insane or anything to where anybody in the know would know that these guys went up. Of course, you saw your usual Mezco bros on the group saying things like, oh, easy pass, oh, I like the originals better. And of course, these sold out soon thereafter. And then there's a lot of remorse out there. People are trying to go to the secondary market. People are, I'm sure, will end up paying $600 or $700 for this set. So just know that if there's even a chance that you might want something that they come out with, you might want to be earlier rather than later, and it's better to be safe than sorry. But this was a big ask, this price. But I do see the value in there. Usually the Mezco Rumble Society figures range anywhere from $80 to $100 a piece. So you definitely see that, only this came with a huge display base and box and a bevy of accessories and outfit choices that go beyond even what their usual insane offerings are. And to top it all off, even got a 2-disc LP with the thing, with a digital download code, with actually really quality produced punk rock music on there. Some of it's just straight up parody and just to be silly, and some of it is actually fairly legit. So my compliments to Mez and to everybody responsible for the set. This was a really fun surprise, and I bet the guys at Mezco, who are notoriously silent, and sometimes to their detriment when communicating with fans, didn't even hardly give a hint that the Pink Skulls might be returning in any sort of way. And then when they were done and they were ready to ship out, they just announced them one day with a crazy stop motion music video, which I really do suggest you watch if you haven't yet. And with that, we've got another home run from Mezco. I do feel like the quality on these guys was higher than any other Mezco set I have ever bought before. And let me say that again, the quality here was higher and better than any other Mezco product that contained multiple figures that I have ever bought. Not a single loose joint, not a single joint that felt too tight, no problem with any of the costumes or accessories, just no issue whatsoever. Practically perfectly engineered figures. And that, my friends, is a big win. All right, guys, well, I certainly hope you have enjoyed the review today. Of course, we take a lot of time on our reviews here on Fanboys Forever, so I'm sorry if I didn't get this out quite as quick as I would have hoped to have. I really wanted to have fun and set up this big diorama and do a lot of photography for you all. And of course, let me know what you guys think about these down below. I would love to hear your opinions, and let me know if you picked these guys up. Do you think it was too expensive? Well, how will you end up displaying these guys if you did indeed buy them? So just let me know down below in the comments. And of course, be sure to like the video because it really does help our channel grow, and it really makes a big difference here on Fanboys Forever, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future Mezco reviews. And as always, God bless you and yours, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out.